When you think about Germany during the years of the Weimar Republic between the First and Second World Wars, you probably immediately think of the inexorable rise to power of Hitler's National Socialists. And that is understandable because of course it was the Nazis who dismantled the democratic system and started a war which devastated an entire continent. But it wasn't the only radical movement in Germany at the time, and it's one of the others that I want to talk about. The March Action took place in March 1921. This was some time before the Great Depression hit, but Germany was suffering from the effects of the First World War, which had ended less than 3 years previously. This had also brought about the end of the monarchy, and the Russian Revolution was also fresh in the mind. The working classes were throwing off their shackles at last. Not that everybody agreed that communism was the answer. Down in Munich, a certain Adolf Hitler was a rising star in a rather obscure movement that rejected both capitalism and communism. And a year previously, a far-right uprising called the Kapp Putsch had nearly started a civil war. These were confusing and chaotic times. The war had been lost, Germany made to pay the price, and the old order swept away. People were looking for solutions, and some were prepared to try almost anything. This is where the German Communist Party came onto the scene, although at the time they were calling themselves the United Communist Party of Germany. A member of Communist International, they wanted nothing less than a communist revolution. And so, for March 1921, almost exactly a year after the Kapp Putsch, they planned an uprising in the industrial areas of central Germany, particularly the cities of Halle, Merseburg and Leuna. The motto was to be for an alliance with the Soviet Union and the overthrow of the government. Not everybody in the party was happy with the idea, and like many radical movements, it suffered from internal squabbling. In fact, this squabbling actually cost the party its leader, who resigned because he didn't agree with the need for a violent uprising. And violent it was to be. Ever since the Kapp Putsch, central Germany had been plagued with strikes and looting. On the 17th of March 1921, the police were sent to try to restore order to the region. That was the signal for the United Communist Party to start the revolution. They began by calling for a general strike. One of its members, a Hungarian communist called Bela Kun, openly called for workers to ignore the law and take whatever weapons they could find. At first, not many people heeded the call, but soon the strikes began to spread. And then came Max Holz. As a particularly passionate communist, Holz started a campaign that can only be described as guerrilla warfare. He armed ordinary citizens and they set about terrorizing the area with bombings and arson and other criminal acts. These acts horrified even the party leadership, who expelled him from the United Communist Party. He went on to join the Communist Workers' Party. Things got so bad that a state of emergency was declared in Saxony and Greater Hamburg. The military finally put an end to the uprising on the 1st of April, but not without a great deal of force and bloodshed. About 200,000 people had taken part. 180 people had died. 4,000 people were given prison terms and 4 were sentenced to death. The party itself was left to argue over whose fault it was that they'd lost control of the uprising and let Holz run riot. It is of course very easy, with the benefit of hindsight, to judge Germany's willingness to give Hitler a try. But I think it is very important to understand just what the country was going through at the time, and how badly they wanted a strong leader to step in and sort it all out. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to send me a postcard, here's the address. And don't forget to visit my website and follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Also, if you'd like access to special bonus content and help with the costs of running this channel, please consider making a small monthly donation on Patreon.